Yeah, that is true. Where I am. Let's try this again. Holy cow. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition. Good Lord. Of the Para OR Normal Guyz. We are glad you're here. Hope everybody had a good weekend or a good week. In case you missed it earlier, we had a taped episode. And it was at 2:00. It was the Paranormal attorney. You can look for some bonus episodes coming with him. And that will always usually be pre-taped. So keep an eye out for that. I want to welcome WDJY to the family of Sportcat. And also want to welcome Radio Fairfax and Fairfax Cable Channel 37. Those are our new stations that we are growing onto. So, I think that's it. That's all the news I got. Welcome to Chat's Open. Phone lines open. Let's get that number up there for you guys so you can call in. We have some great guests tonight. Josh is first up. He has, I'm just calling him tell you because I'm afraid I'm going to say too much. He does a lot of things. First off, let's see who is back here. We got the B Dizzle. Howdy, Bobby.
I'm here.
Yeah, you
hanging
are.
In there.
And you're not muted.
Nope. I'm what's known as a professional.
Yeah, well, I'm still learning. One of these days I'll get the hang of this. So. All right, let's bring Josh in.
I'm going to quit first.
Yeah, well, better I'll lose my mind. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hi there.
I didn't tell anybody about you, so just go ahead because I screwed up the whole intro thing. So
You're fine. No worries. My name is Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I am an author of several books on the supernatural, the paranormal, whatever you want to call it. I have trouble counting how many books there are because I've kind of had to split some of them in two. But I started with my first book in 2015, and my last nonfiction book came out in 2022. And what the main thing that I like to do when I work on my books is to look at these issues, these topics through a comparative lens. In other words, I like to see how these different paranormal and supernatural experiences not only echo each other in modern reports, but also how they echo reports of things that we see from the past as well, whether that's folklore or ancient manuscripts or things like that. That's really where I get the most enjoyment out of looking at the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. I had a similar thing talking to someone about the what's the word? The commonalities between the Fae and Bigfoot and how they're like the same thing if you take away the monkey.
Yeah, you have no idea how glad I am to hear you bring that up because, a lot of what I do talks about the fairy folk, and they've been so mistreated by pop culture that like our idea of what they are/were is so far from the original stories that people shared in Western Europe, arguably the world over, because this whole little people motif you see everywhere. But there's a lot of stuff with Bigfoot and fairies, and again,
knock on wood, wood knocking.
Yep, that's absolutely one of them. And it's amazing to me how hyper specific it gets. I mean, I'm sure y'all have heard that there's some researchers, especially I've run into this in like Big Sky Country, right, who claim up and down that Bigfoot sneak into their stables and braid their horses' manes at night. And I've actually found a reference to that with a Russian researcher who claims that one of the Russian Almas, he actually observed a Bigfoot, one of their Russian Bigfoot breaking into a stable and braiding a horse's mane. And you can find those exact same stories from 18th century Devon over in England, and it was always blamed on the fairies, or even in Nova Scotia to this day that happens, they blame on the fairies. So
that's what they call it, a fairy braid.
Yeah. And the idea was that instead of using bridles and reins, they'd use they'd use the hair as the mane as stirrups. So what I try to do is I try to say, I don't necessarily think that Bigfoot are fairies or that fairies are Bigfoot, but that we tend to notice these strange things and apply them to whatever our monster du jour is. And Yeah,
I'll have your monster du jour, please.
right. It's a special of the day. But I really think that whatever this is, and I do, contrary to a lot of folks, lump ghosts and cryptids and UFOs all into the same category. I have my reasons for that. But I do think that there is some sort of dialogue going on between these phenomena and where we are in terms of our culture and our expectations and things like that. I think that we are very much a part of this. I don't exactly know how that transmission or that these two things playing off each other, how that happens in terms of a mechanism, but I do think that there's a lot to that.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear you put them together because a lot of people don't. So now, have you got any personal experience with them? Have you been? I know you and I talked about going out in the woods. You like doing that. Have you had any personal experiences?
Well, I kind of have this thing where I feel like I'm paranormal kryptonite, but I've had a couple of things happen. The most dramatic stuff that I've had happen has been around the ghost stuff, which ironically enough is probably why I tend to be the least interested in ghosts, because it's like, well, yeah, they exist. Let's move on to the next mystery. It's kind of been answered for me.
It sounds like Glenn.
Bigfoot specific. I've had some I call it like Bigfoot adjacent things happen to me. The first was actually it's kind of a funny story. During my honeymoon, we got married here in Georgia, and we went to the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is before I'd really pursued my interest in the paranormal to the degree that I have today, writing books and such. But I was always interested in it from a young age. I was, a monster kid, and I used to check out all the books on Bigfoot from the library and stuff. And I was being a drunken idiot the last night that we were there, and we were sitting in the hot tub on the back deck, and it was overlooking this valley, and I was just hooping and hollering, making my, doing my Bigfoot vocalizations best I could, and went to bed and didn't think anything of it. Now, to sort of set the scene, this particular cabin was at the top of a driveway I would probably imagine half a mile long, real steep. I mean, not quite 45 degrees, but it was real steep. Like, I would not have wanted to start at the bottom and walk my way up. So not super isolated, but definitely not somewhere that I would volunteer to travel on foot. And the next day, we're loading stuff out to the car, and my wife takes, something small out, and she comes back in and says, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Why did I do what? What are you talking about?" And she says, "The rock. Why did you do that?" I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And so she takes me outside, and she shows me. And behind the, I think it was the driver's side rear tire, is a rock about the size of a basketball. And, wow. It's the North Georgia mountains. I mean, it's like wedged behind the tire, right? There was a sort of the slope of the mountain continued way on the other side of the driveway, but it was all red Georgia clay, and this rock was very clean. Nowhere else that I could have seen where it could have come from. And I started thinking about, turning over all the different possibilities in my mind, because I'm pretty hard to convince myself when I have an experience. And I said, well, maybe it was some, teenage pranksters. But like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to carry this rock up there, or happen to find this rock up there, and why would you wedge it beneath my tire if you wanted to prank me? Why wouldn't you put it like on my roof, or like on the hood of the car, or something, like do something obvious? So I really don't know. I can't say that's Bigfoot, but it's definitely sort of has a lot of the hallmarks of that. And then
especially since it's like 50 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hefty rock. Of course, again, I wasn't like, I wasn't doing this as, sort of a career and a super hyperactive interest like I do now. So I didn't take a picture. I mean, I didn't have my first smartphone until like 2022. So that's another reason why I didn't take a picture. But anyway, nowadays, you're dang right, I would have taken a picture, and I would have put my shoe beside it for scale and all that stuff. But no, we just moved the rock and went on home. The other thing that's sort of Bigfoot-ish that I've had happen to me is my good friend and co-author Timothy Renner, lives in Pennsylvania, and he has a research site called Site 7 that he goes to, and there's been some activity up there that's highly suggestive of Bigfoot, rocks thrown, large shadow figures, and of course these anomalous lights, which just so happen to show up at Bigfoot sites for some reason. And The first time I ever went to Site 7 with Tim, we get out of the car and we haven't even like started to move towards where we're going to set up for the night. And I hear this huff, really gruff huff, and something starts shuffling away. I'm not great at identifying four-legged versus two-legged footprints by ear, by sound. Tim is convinced that it was walking on 2 feet. It was very large, and I can say I do have enough familiarity with, whitetail grunts and stuff, and it was not that. So, those are my two sort of Bigfoot-esque things. Doesn't mean I haven't gone looking for Bigfoot. I've been in the field a little bit, especially last year. I did the most field work I've done lately, but I haven't really had anything quite to that level yet. So that's pretty much the extent of my cryptid experiences. The ghost stuff is a different story, and the UFO stuff is non-existent.
You mentioned the deer grunt. I've often wondered, like, if you've never heard that before, that's got to be attributed to some percentage. Because, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, and also the sound of, I mean, if you get a squirrel, in the leaves and it starts rattling around and you don't see where it's coming from, you're like, what? It's cloaked, you start thinking that yourself too.
I had an armadillo scare the hell out of me one night.
Yeah.
It sounded like a herd of buffalo coming up right towards me.
Yep.
But yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, and foxes too make some strange noises.
Really strange noises, yeah.
And if you ever want to have the crap scared out of you, have an owl right above your tent about 3 a.m. Just let out with a little barred owl. Yeah, just let it out. Then you will swear that somebody just killed the baby next to you.
No, totally. So what I tend to do when I do go out in the field is like if you put all your hopes on actually seeing something, right? Like you're more often than not, you're going to be disappointed. So I try to approach these things as doing X, Y, or Z with a purpose, right? So like going Bigfoot hunting or going out in the woods looking for Bigfoot is like just being outdoors with a purpose. Like, the last time I did a Bigfoot overnight, I got to hear a pack of coyotes going off, which is kind of cool, to live in the metro Atlanta area and to hear that in the woods is it's kind of cool. But
you usually hear something quite different. So.
But if you're looking for UFOs, like it's sky watching, it's looking at the stars with a purpose. If you're on a ghost hunt, it's being in a historical location with a purpose, and that's sort of the way that I tend to offset my bad luck that I have in these experiences.
Now, do you know Les Durant over there?
I do not. It sounds familiar though.
How about Mystic Mountain Pizza? Les is the morning drive DJ for the Mountain Country, the Blue Ridge.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a big orbs guy. C5E or CE5.
Oh, the
big CE5.
Close Encounters, the fifth, the calling.
He's one of your neighbors. You said Blue Ridge. I'm like, I wonder if they know each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about we got a nice little Bigfoot museum up there, and I'm about an hour and 15
I had the shirt on
yesterday.
yesterday.
Oh, nice! Yeah, I love that
logo
so much. I love that logo so much.
The one that has the like the Native American drawing logo was awesome. That they have over there.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Oh,
yeah, I think that's just a great logo. But yeah, so I'm close enough that I can get to the sticks.
Up in the North Georgia mountains, one time our group, there was probably, I'd say at least 8 of us, and we attribute this probably to the fairies. But the next morning we woke up and all of the car radio antennas were unscrewed and laid beside the vehicles. And we were the first person that found it thought, okay, somebody at camp done it. This is a joke. And I mean, we all but had to take lie detectors tests to each other that we didn't do it. And finally we were like, okay, well then how did that happen? If nobody did that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen by accident. And North Georgia is the stomping grounds of the Nunyenahi, the one version of the Cherokee fairies. And if you go back through these old stories of the Nunyenahi, it really gets uncanny quite quickly how closely they match some of that Western European fairy folklore. I mean, in the New World, when the tribes speak of little people, you don't see a super strong association with earthworks and mounds and stuff like that. But it's definitely the case among the Cherokee and the Nunyanahi. And I've been to a couple of the mounds in this area that have that association with them. But it's like, I found stories of missing time associated with the Nunyanahi, just all sorts of stuff that really does sound like it's describing the exact same thing that was happening in, Ireland and Scotland and England. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, well, I'm not ruling out cultural contamination, that the early ethnographers came over here and they were really trying to shoehorn these indigenous myths into their own scholarship. But at the same time, like, I kind of think that it's just because these different cultures are interacting with something that is highly consistent regardless of where you go.
Well, I've got one for you. That same North Georgia Appalachians, what have you. The mountains are the same in Scotland. The same range from like Pangea.
Yes.
And they have the same lore. I just wonder, is that the same thing that's been there, or the Scottish people moved here and brought their lore?
Well, it's really interesting because they're for the longest time amongst fairy scholars, and that is actually a group of people who do that. They actually, look into fairy myths and
it's
legends.
not just people from Berkeley.
Yeah, right. It was said that the only place that fairy folklore really made the transition across, the Atlantic, the only place it really took root was, the Northeast up through Nova Scotia and Eastern Canada. But I really don't think that's the case. I really do think that fairy folklore is highly transmissible in terms of how much it just sort of sticks with people and travels, throughout. And traveled, with settlers throughout the continental United States. I mean, I've found stories of Tommy knockers in Montana, which is a Cornish thing. And I think that particular topic, like the retention of fairy folklore from Western Europe to places like the Southeast that traditionally have not been considered amongst, at least settler communities, hotbeds of fairy activity. I think that's really being reconsidered in a big way. And in reality, what happened is these people brought these beliefs over here, and then they heard stories from, the Cherokee or the Creek or whomever. And, it sort of it became its own thing. And yeah, I mean, this is without even getting into the discussion of folk magic that, is a direct transplant from, the Highlands down into to Appalachians. Yeah.
I think the one that triggers that whole similarity where they started putting two and two together was the standing up deer thing, the Wendigo. I think that's the thing
not deer stuff.
Yeah. You hear a whistle, no, you didn't, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and you go through this stuff, and it's so consistent, and that's been my big thing with these topics in general, is that you look at these stories that. My favorite example is a good example. You're talking about the similarities between fairies and Bigfoot. There's this long-standing food taboo that if you go to fairyland or you're enticed to a fairy party, don't eat the food, don't drink the drink, because you'll be stuck there forever. And I believe it's one of the tribes on the coast of Alaska, the southern coast of Alaska. They have a Bigfoot analog known as the Bequus, and it's their version of Bigfoot. And it was said that if you were to be given food by the Bequus and you ate it, you'd be trapped with the Bequus forever. And what's more, once you took the food and you ate it, it looked like it was this delicious dried salmon, but it was in reality tree bark that was sort of glamored to appear differently. And I'm like, that's so specific. It's so specific, So what you really end up looking at, for me, when I hear a story like that, I come to one of three conclusions, and all of them I think are really, paradigm changing, to use that phraseology. Either there was a truly international civilization that had a lot of cultural transmission that we don't recognize in the modern day, or things like the collective unconscious and archetypes, these ideas that are sort of the human software that's embedded into every culture is a thing. That's a thing, and that has real lived implications. Or the perspective that I adhere to the closest is that these stories sound similar because people are interacting with these things, and we all came up with these same sets of rules because this is just what you do because this thing does exist, or these things.
It's like exactly what they found. That's what happened.
Yeah, trial and error. Lots of trial and error.
I'll take it one step further. What if that's why we don't have any bodies? Is because when they die, they turn into tree bark.
It's kind of funny.
You're deep.
I mean, it's so. This is the kind of stuff that
I've had no caffeine.
Oh, I'm glad you bring that up because this is the kind of stuff that some people we'd have this conversation with and they'd kick us off the channel.
Not here.
But I mean, but
and
here's the thing. I'm not even sure how much okay, we can get to that in a second. I have collected plenty of stories of people who say that they're staring at a tree stump and it moves and it's revealing itself to be a Bigfoot, or they're looking at a Bigfoot through binoculars and it freezes and another pair of people walk right by it and they think that it's a tree stump. There are some pretty prominent Bigfoot organizations that have sort of an unofficial motto that is shoot all the tree stumps, because they're convinced that these things can look exactly like trees and such. And that puts me in the mindset of things like dryads and these other fairy folk that are, that had such a close association with trees. There's even a story that I don't know if you're familiar with Barton Nunnally, but Barton collected a story of a person, I think it was probably in Kentucky, who claimed that she had shot and killed a Bigfoot and it turned into a log and she made it into a coffee table. Now, I don't know if I believe that story, right? But from this sort of thematic angle, it really is consistent with what you see throughout folklore. And I guess the journey that I would invite people on to get to something as silly, and I say that not because I think it's silly, but I know other people listening would, saying something as silly as maybe the reason Bigfoot bodies don't exist is because they turn into bark. The invitation that I would extend to people with that is that I think that we have our ideas of physical and non-physical all wrong. One of the things that I run into with people who are really still banging the drum that these are giant apes in the woods of North America is that, well, ghosts don't leave hair and scat and footprints. And I'm like, well, actually, that was the first ghost hunting tool was to spread talcum powder on the floor and wait for footprints. So we know that these non-physical things interact with the physical world. And then if you keep on going down through that journey of parapsychology, you can see things like seances and poltergeist infestations where people have these apports, these objects that come out of nowhere. And, sometimes it's an actual, some of the most dramatic examples, it's like swords and cutlery, and there's no real origin source that they can trace on these things. So our idea of the way that the physical and the non-physical exist, I think, is really a false dichotomy. And once you sort of break down that barrier, it becomes a lot easier to say, well, I don't know if this is a literal truth or a metaphorical truth, but there might be something to the idea that Bigfoot are trees. I don't know. But I think it's a place that you end up going if you are into Bigfoot and you've been around the community long enough and start to sympathize with some of the skeptical complaints, because there are some legitimate skeptical complaints. We should have a body. I know about people not finding bears and cougars carcasses that often. I know that, but we found them. At some point we found them.
At least one.
Yeah, exactly. In the history of humankind, that's happened. So here I am, I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, these skeptical arguments make sense, but I've also talked to people that I know are telling me the truth. Hunters who know the difference between a bear and something that's walking around on two legs and covered in hair. So the only way that I see to really reconcile that is to really go in this strange direction. But that strange direction, I would argue, was completely consistent with things like ghosts and UFOs as well.
Like you said, they put down talcum powder to see the footprints. Yep. But what's the one thing ghosts always try to do, and that's suck energy out of everything to become real again. And so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they were real for 15 seconds. Just like the the one Bigfoot track, and you don't see any other tracks.
Yeah, exactly. That's my favorite. One of my favorite things is when you've got a solitary footprint, and you hear the explanations oh, the Bigfoot jumped, and you're like, my man, I'm in the middle of a field here. There's snow all around. There's one footprint. Yeah, and
it's prancing over there.
Well, and people will say things like, maybe the Bigfoot is the best jumper in the animal kingdom because, the best jumpers in the animal kingdom are the klipspringer, which is a type of antelope, and the snow leopard. And they max out at, I believe, 100-foot horizontal and a 50-foot vertical jump. So, okay, well, maybe Bigfoot can jump 200 feet. Cool.
100 foot
But then you
horizontal.
start hearing all these these similar explanations like, oh, well, the reason Bigfoot's eyes glow sometimes is because they're the only animal with bioluminescent eyes. Okay, so they're the world's greatest jumper and they have bioluminescent eyes. And you wind up with like 15 things that Bigfoot is the best at in the animal kingdom or the only thing at in the animal kingdom. You're like,
don't forget echolocation.
Oh yeah, the infrasound stuff and all that too. Yeah. And then so you can do that. You can say like maybe Bigfoot is the most miraculous animal on the planet and it's flesh and blood, or you can say, hey, look, there's a whole history of beings and, for lack of a better term, spirits that human beings have encountered, and it's entirely consistent with what we're seeing in modern day Bigfoot reports. That's your other option.
Well, I have a good friend that he says that he had one, dead to rights. If he wanted to shoot it, he could. He literally saw it, and he said it pixelated in front of me. He said it was literally like you see a camera get real close in focus, and then it was just gone. And I've known this man for 20 years. I've been out in the woods with him. He's a search and rescue expert. I have no reason to think that that's not what he saw. You know what I'm saying? It's like, How did they do that?
Well, I'll never forget this moment. I had I was doing a podcast with a pretty prominent paranormal personality, and we were talking about the possibility of Bigfoot disappearing, and they said, well, couldn't it have just jumped behind a tree or jumped into a ditch? And I said, yeah, but the person said that it disappeared before their eyes. And I said, if you keep walking that logic back, oh, well, it could have just done this, and it could have been this, and it could have been that. You keep walking that logic back to its final conclusion, and you wind up with, they saw a bear. Like, that's, at some point you have to say, I'm going to trust what this person saw. And I'm not saying that Bigfoot doesn't jump behind trees and Bigfoot doesn't jump into ditches, but at the same time, some of these witnesses are pretty clear about this thing just blinking out of sight, or in your case, pixelating. And I've heard the cloaking thing before. I've heard about. I have a good friend who actually, in his youth, encountered what he described as a tiger made out of like polygons or pixels on a trail in Alabama. So it's not inconsistent with what I've seen. And again, it's like the only way I think that you can really reconcile this stuff is to get weird. Honestly,
yeah, it explains it somehow better than it being a hidden ape.
And people, I think if I'm taking a temperature of the room, so to speak, I think that these communities have warmed up to that in a big way in the past 4 or 5 years.
I think they're open to it being able to do something, but they don't know what. They don't want to jump all the way off.
Right. Well, that's my old. I don't even know if it's a joke, but my old like scenario is that like it's like with the UFO stuff, right? Like you get the lecturer into the bar after their talk, and you get a couple of beers in them, and they'll say, "Yeah, I think it's aliens, but I just keep having these weird synchronicities happening to me." They'll come out with the weird stuff, the reality bending stuff. And similarly with the Bigfoot stuff, like, you might have someone up there who's really staunch in that flesh and blood camp, and you get them to the bar and you get a couple beers in them, and they'll say, there was this one time where we were in this area where we always saw Bigfoot, and we didn't see Bigfoot this time, but we did see these lights that were bobbing through the forest. I don't know what's up with that. So yeah, people are really opening up, I think. And I
call it beer boarding. Is what I
call what?
I call it
beer boarding.
I have a few friends that work for special agencies, and every now and then we'll go out and have a few drinks, and they claim after a while, they're like, I can't talk to you. You beer board me. I talk too much around you. And I'm like, no, keep it up. You're like, no, I know where it'll go. It'll go out over your radio or your show. And I'm like, well, maybe. Well, beer boarding works.
BFRO used to have the Blue Forum where they could talk the woo thing, but they wouldn't put it on their main site.
I did not hear about this. This is new to me.
Blue Forum. I talked to Carter Brushard. He's a former BFRO investigator. He said they used to have it. They could talk about it on that forum, but they couldn't put it on the main site, and they would redact like the dadgum Area 51 the part about the woo on the main site. Like, they would change your story.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about, I've heard a lot of stories about accounts getting thrown into the waste bin, but I didn't know about that. Mm-hmm. And that's really that's kind of what has bothered me about cryptozoology. And I'm kind of hurt. It hurts to say this because I grew up as a cryptozoology kid, right? But cryptozoology has this real desire, cryptozoologists, I guess, have this real desire to have that I told you so moment. And they think that the only way they're going to get to that I told you so moment with the scientists, sitting at the big boys table in the cafeteria, is if they really pursue this line of like, Australopithecus, Gigantopithecus, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's got to be that and it can't be anything else. And I think that they do that to their own detriment, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. Well, we were talking about the cool kids at that party. The most recent one you could get into play is Dogman. What's your opinion on that? Is it just another breed of Bigfoot, or is it something totally different? Or
I mean, I don't really. Yeah, I've heard the Dogman is just a Bigfoot with a more baboon-like muzzle, and I can't say that that's not the case, right? Because I sure as heck haven't seen a Dogman myself, yeah. But most of the stories that I read are pretty clear that this isn't like, it kind of looks like a baboon head. It looks like a canine head. And I will say, like, I will stake everything in my bank on the fact that you're never going to get a Dogman body and you're never going to catch a Dogman. Like, it's just not going to happen. Because, you can make a case for certain cryptids being, relic species. But there's nothing that even approaches what Dogman is. Now, what I think is interesting is that you could make a very clear case that after anomalous lights, the most common paranormal thing seen around these Native American mounds is Dogman in terms of, the sort of phenomena. And there's been some really good and interesting scholarship recently that I was unaware of. But it appears that some of, I believe, the Adena culture would actually have what scholars have since called werewolf shamans, which were, intercessors between the human world and the spirit world, shamans, who would actually remove their front set of teeth. And the reason that they did that was they would facilitate a wolf muzzle that would be fit into the front of onto their face. So you'd actually have this sort of like wolf muzzle stuck onto their mouth. And they would also, there's evidence that they would dress in wolf furs, and this would be used during certain ceremonies. And, as with a lot of shamanic practitioners, combine in either rituals or consumption of entheogens that would sort of facilitate trance states. And the fact that you have these mound building cultures basically creating werewolves, and then now that those mound building cultures are no longer existent, people seeing dogmen in the vicinity of these mounds centuries later, I think that there's something to that. I don't know if it means that the spirit of this half wolf that people conjured up way back when is still lingering around. I don't know if it's the spirits of the shaman or their totem spirit or something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's a connection there.
That's something. That stuff's wild.
Yeah. Well, and there's also it's also kind of consistent with the fact that third place, I would argue. Well, UFOs are in there too, but it's kind of in that anomalous lights category. But Bigfoot does show up with a loose affinity for mounds as well, and there have been effigies of clay pipe effigies featuring what, for lack of a better term, do look like monkeys, and they're actually called monkeys by archaeologists. And the idea is that some tribes passed a monkey along through this trade system all the way up into, Oklahoma or wherever the particular, site happens to be. And, maybe that's the case because, I went to Cahokia in St. Louis over the last summer, and they discovered bronze plates there that were made in Etowah, which, is like down here. And it took me 8 hours to get to St. Louis from here. So it's like there was a significant trade route going on. But like the idea of an animal staying alive that long, like a monk, I just don't know. I think it's easier to say, oh, maybe we have, these cultures are tapping into these sort of spirits, and that's sort of what's lingering around. It's a very half-formed idea that I have, but I will buy that more than I will the idea that we're dealing with a flesh and blood werewolf that's running around. And I would
6-foot wolf.
Yeah, but again, like, and the people will hear me say this, and they'll be like, "Oh, you don't believe dogman witnesses?" And it's like, no, I absolutely do. Like, I've heard too many of these stories. Like, I don't know if all of them are true, but there are some people who have encountered something that the best term for would be dogman or werewolf. I just don't think that you're going to shoot it and kill it. And then once you start sort of looking at werewolf traditions in, especially in Western Europe, there's something to that as well. I think that speaks to the dogman thing. I find it really interesting. There's a whole subset of Bigfoot reports that I'm really fascinated by. They don't get nearly enough press, but it's Bigfoot wearing clothes. I don't know if y'all run into this, but there are some instances of Bigfoot being seen wearing pants or flannel shirts. But the most that I've found is Bigfoot wearing a belt. And, we normally think about werewolves in the context of getting bitten by a werewolf and then you turn into a werewolf, or being cursed or something along these lines. But one of the means by which you could become a werewolf in, European witchcraft was that the witch would give you a belt or a girdle that was enchanted that you would put on, and then it would turn you into a werewolf. So you have these big hairy figures running around with belts. It kind of makes me wonder, again, I don't know if that means that that's literally what's happening, but it's the motif is consistent through time, and I think that's really fascinating too.
That's another one on the same vein as a tree bark. What if the cover up is true and there are a people, and we're not finding bones, we're just finding John Does? And yada yada yada.
I am really sympathetic to if there's a Bigfoot cover up. It has something to do with the fact that the United States government has been mistreating, a population of human beings in America for all these years. I mean, that seems. Yeah, right. That seems to be pretty consistent with the government's MO.
Yeah, I've been having a message back and forth with a researcher from Indiana, I think from Indiana, about the cover up being like a subset of people, for no lack of a better term. He said that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, it kind of puts me in the mind of the UFO stuff too. I mean, if you look at the reasons for. If you look at the reasons for cover-ups, and conspiracy theories aren't really my bailiwick, but I know enough about them to know that, like, the main reasons that governments cover stuff up is to hide from shame. Like, you know what I mean? It's either to exercise power or to hide from shame. They don't really care about, the truth of UFOs or the truth of Bigfoot warping our minds and making us, unproductive citizens. Like, they just they're always looking out for their own just best interests and keeping things easier. It's kind of funny. I've well, one of my own favorite conspiracy theories is that, like, the DNR is entirely, in Fish and Game, are entirely aware of the fact that mountain lions are populous and back east of the Mississippi. They just don't want to do the paperwork for it. I've heard that in numerous occasions. So,
Black Panthers.
So yeah, it makes sense that, like, the government's like, look, there's this group of hairy people that we don't know what to do with, and if it gets out how we've mistreated them over the past 200 years, like, it's going to be really bad. Same thing with the UFO thing. If you look at sort of the history of authority structures persecuting things, it's usually around, power and issues of spirituality. That was the whole thing with the Romans and the Christians, and I think that might be playing a role in why they don't want the UFO thing to get out, is because it doesn't have, like, implications for us not being alone in the universe. It has implications along the lines of, oh, you actually are an immortal being, and when you die, like, that's not the end. Like, that is something that would really undermine the power of authority structures, I think. And I think that might be why it's part of the UFO question.
It's like the fluoride thing and the is anything like that. The fact that Big Sugar won the fat debate thing, that Nikola Tesla's free energy, Tartarian mud flood. I mean, it all just goes on that same slide.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you just got to think about the motivations behind these cover-ups, and it's not because there's just some aversion to the truth. There has to be a reason for why they want to hang on to the lie more than they want to embrace the truth, every time.
Even the principle of just, I'm going to bring it up again, Glenn, manifesting something is true and 100% true and works, but they cover that up. Like,
well, that puts me in the mind of, what that puts me in the mindset of, do y'all know the real story behind Ape Canyon?
Mm-mm.
No,
so you're familiar with the Ape Canyon story, right? A group of miners.
I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah. So the broad strokes are a group of miners trapped in a shack near Mount St. Helens, and they're attacked by Bigfoot overnight. Bigfoot are throwing boulders at the cabin. A Bigfoot reaches between the walls of the cabin, and they try to shoot it and tries to. Anyway, very famous story in cryptozoology. It appears in a lot of books that talk about the flesh and blood stuff. But if you actually go back and read the primary witness for the Ape Canyon incident, Fred Beck, if you read his pamphlet that he wrote about the incident, and again, this is where we know the Ape Canyon incident is from Fred Beck, and they're leaving out some important parts of the story. You'll find out that Fred Beck, I believe he grew up a spiritualist. He had a lot of strange manifestations and apports in his life as a child. The actual mining claim that they were going to, when they reached the Ape Canyon mine, the name of the canyon was the Vander White Mine, and he named that after a female guardian spirit that led him to the mine and led him and his partners to the mine through the appearance of a giant white arrow in the sky. While he was at the Ape Canyon / Vander White mine site, he encountered what sounds like, if you read the book, sounds like the spirit of a young girl. He also had a pencil, a port into his hand when he needed one, just manifested like you were alluding to. And then even the whole Ape Canyon story starts out before they even see Bigfoot. The first thing they notice is just two footprints in a sandbar that's like 60 feet wide. And one of the guys makes the remark, he says, it looks like something was dropped there and picked right back up. And it's two big footprints in the middle of the sandbar. They heard these knocking and banging sounds from underground, which again are really consistent with fairy folklore. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that Fred Beck is the world's most reliable narrator, right? But if you're basing most of the Ape Canyon story on his testimony, you can't leave that other stuff out. You know what I mean? Like you can't sort of pick the stuff out that flatters your own biases and leave all that other weird stuff out because you don't like what it suggests about Bigfoot. So, yeah.
What the Roman Empire did. We decided we were just going to change history, but yeah. And Bobby talks about manifestation a lot. I think there's something to it with the intent. And things like when we go out in the woods, I feel like we have more experiences than other groups because of our intent. And we set our intent way before we go out in the woods so that it's clear, what we're going to do. We're not going to come out there and, with the bang stick and shoot you. So I think that's why we have more interaction. And I think it's also not just the mindset. I think it's more of an open mind too. Because I've been out with people and I've been clearly okay, that sound is attributed to a Bigfoot. And the guy's like, I've heard that my entire life. And I always thought it was a bird. Yeah.
Well, there's something to that sort of and again, this puts me in the mindset of set and setting with psychedelics, or the way that people will say that their alien abductions change character based on, whether they approach them with fear or with openness. But that's something that I believe it was Rob Riggs talked about when he was doing stuff in the Big Thicket. He talked to some folks, I believe they were indigenous, who said that, if you go out there and you want to do these things harm, they're not going to show up. And sure enough, if you look, across the world at the work of Igor Burtsev, a researcher who studied the Almas, the Russian Bigfoot, he also said that he had heard from the old folks in the Carpathian Mountains, I think, that if you before you even put on your firearm to go looking for them, they knew that what you were doing and that you were coming for them. So there really does seem to be something about sort of approaching with an open mind and whatnot. I am really frustrated because I've tried going out into the field completely skeptical that nothing's going to happen, and I've tried going out completely believing that something's going to happen, and I've gone out trying to be right there in the middle, and nothing ever seems to happen. So I don't know. Maybe I need to hang out with you.
Hey, let's do it. Bobby's thing about barred owls don't throw rocks. It's one of his favorite quotes. We were up on Trey Mountain, and we weren't even out looking for anything. We were just out four-wheeling, and we set up a camp that night. Things were being thrown at us, and it's like, okay, that can't be raccoon. That can't be squirrel. So it's like, we weren't even looking for you, and it's like, they're letting us know they're there. So I think it is sometimes just, it's just your mindset. It's some of the best experiences I have been going out and just staying at the camp.
There's my t-shirt. There's my t-shirt I sell.
That's amazing. I should pick one of those up.
One of my guests said that one time. He said, barred owls don't throw rocks. I'm like, that's going on everything.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, you listen to the complete skeptics about Bigfoot in general, and like, that's something that's a really tangible thing that happens to people that I have yet to hear a good explanation for. I'm like, maybe there's a bird that happens to drop a rock on me, but to have it happen multiple times in the course of a couple of minutes and coming at a horizontal trajectory, like there's something out there with hands that's throwing something. There's no way around it.
And they're like that big sometimes. Just
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's too big for a bird to even throw. Yeah,
it's one malicious bird.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about the fairy stuff, like, thrown stones was a hallmark of those fairy encounters. And, to this day, it's something that appears in poltergeist.
You don't happen to know Jason McLean, do you? He's kind of in your same space.
Yeah, I know him pretty well.
He's where I got the fairy thing from. And I haven't aired his episode that I had. Me and him talked for like 3 hours. I'm like, I don't want to let this guy go. Usually I'm respectful of people's time. I'm like, okay, I'm not cutting it off. This is up to him.
This is all gold. Yeah,
and we went, and he got to talking about pterosaurs that he saw in Texas.
I haven't heard that story from him.
That's a good one. I'm going to clip it out. But he swears he saw. He says it was the ramifractoid pterosaur, just like a giant reptile head. Ramfractoid.
Yeah, and like the heart-shaped tail. That's that thing. Yeah.
And he said it had the heart-shaped tail, and it was blending in with all the other egrets and stuff, and you couldn't really tell, but it got like 5 yards from his face down a canal kind of thing. So he says he thinks
I gotta bug him about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now there's a thing here called sandhill cranes, the ribeye of the sky, and you get like a that's what they call them. Not kidding. I want to try one. But you get like a permit to kill 2 a year. And one of my friends had it, and he held it up. And it was like as long as he was. And he's a big dude. And I sent it to Jason. I said, you know what I thought the first time I saw this? And he just sent me back a laughing emoji.
That was the thing that they kept on wanting to blame the Mothman sightings on. And Keel actually went to witnesses with a picture of a sandhill crane in his pocket and said, did it look anything like this? And they were like, no, it didn't look anything like that. So
those things are big. We pass by about 200 or 300 every Sunday going back home.
So you said ribeye of the sky, that they taste good?
Mm-hmm. That's why they call them that. They say they're delicious. Don't you want one? Can you picture it?
Yeah, no, that's on my, that's on my my game meat bingo card now. I didn't even know it was an option. But yeah.
The county I'm from in Alabama is just next door to where I'm at now. But it's all mountains or it's all swamp, and there's a giant waterfowl refuge. And so these sandhill cranes are in like packs of hundreds, just up next to the road. They look like little dinosaurs.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And they'll get in the fields and stuff by my parents' house and uncle's house because it's just kind of marshy. And it's like, man, it's like a gallimimus walking around out there. Streaky-mimus.
Yeah, you show up and it looks like the mud looks like there's been a herd of dinosaurs going through there.
It's just if you pay attention, and you know the shrink wrap thing with fossils, how they do that. Everything is just as compact.
Oh yeah.
The shrink wrap principle. Like you just picture like what they would actually look like a dinosaur would if it was just kind of fleshed out a little bit.
Because I've seen people doing recreations of like hippopotamuses.
Yeah, and
the same way.
Swans.
Like that, yeah, in swans and stuff. Yeah.
and a penguin would look like a velociraptor looks to us if it was shrink wrap.
Yeah, I love those. I love those drawings, and it really makes you think. Like, we just
and you know how fat a chicken is, and a chicken's a T-Rex. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. That's what a T-Rex was. And you think it looked like that? Where T-Rex is delicious. I'm just saying.
Okay, come on. We all know that the only things that chickens eat is corn, right?
Yeah, and their own feces.
Yeah, right.
And if you take a frog, those of you listening, if you take a frog, throw it in the middle of a pack of chickens, it will destroy the frog in seconds.
Oh, and lizards and mice and
it's the most incredible thing.
Sometimes. Yeah,
it was the most incredible thing growing up was to catch a frog slipping, just toss it in there. Oh my god!
At BobbyDizzle.com.
Jeff Goldblum would show up out of nowhere and say, "Life, found a way." Like, where were you hiding, Jeff Goldblum? In the shed.
I'll go back now.
You're just trying to get PETA after me again, aren't you, Bobby?
Good. Send them to my house.
BobbyDizzle.com. Send all your complaints.
I'll put Master Splinter on that ass.
Send all complaints to BobbyDizzle.com. I'd never heard that with a frog, but that doesn't surprise me.
They destroy it. And a mouse, like he was saying, anything.
Yeah, chicken will eat anything. Yeah, my uncle was a veterinarian, and he had everything up there, and I was afraid to go in the chicken coop. So when I was a kid, well, if you had your choice of any encounter you could have with a cryptid, which would you want it to be?
Is this the same as my favorite cryptid? Because my favorite cryptid's kind of a weird one, but I don't know if it's necessarily okay. Well,
you can do it. It's got to be the Puckwudgie.
No. My favorite cryptid is actually the Nandi bear, which is this like half bear, half hyena that was supposedly seen in Kenya, back around the turn of the 20th century. Because it's just so weird and nobody ever knows about it. That's like my hipster cryptid answer. But
it could be just a giant. Oh man.
But if I really had to pick, I would say it'd probably have to be a Bigfoot encounter, like an unambiguous. This is absolutely what you're seeing, Bigfoot encounter. But the thing is, I wish for that, and then I've got a window with some blinds over it right above the monitor here, and like I don't want to open the blinds and see a Bigfoot staring at me from this far away. Like I want to 50-yard daylight Bigfoot sighting where I'm strapped, and then those are my parameters. Yeah.
What's the shortest acceptable time you'd want to see like a full frontal sighting to call it valid for yourself, for your register, for your brain to go past the adrenaline, just like, okay, it's not a bear, and you can just focus in just a little bit?
I think I could get away with 3 seconds.
Three? Mine is 10 because I'm like, I'm trying to think of it.
Well, that's true. Like
10 seconds.
Because it depends on if it's stationary, full frontal, just standing there. I think I could get by with 3 seconds. But here's the thing that I've experienced from my ghost stuff, is that as time goes on, you start to talk yourself out of it. Like, I don't know how dramatic the things that y'all have had has happened, but like there is that impulse, right? When somebody asks you about it, or you're like thinking to yourself, you're like, maybe it's not like I remember it. And like I always try to bring myself back to that moment and be like, no, this is exactly like this is what you think it is. Like you have to remember how you felt right when you saw it, or right when you experienced it. So I would probably try to talk myself out if it was less than 3 seconds, and I think 10 would probably be pretty good. I had a 3-second sighting just this past November, again with Tim Renner at Site 7, of what might have been a ghost light. I'm not sure. Site 7 is really amongst Tim's colleagues and friends. Like, it's really known for its anomalous light sightings. And we were coming around a bend, and in the crook of a tree, there was a light. I thought it was a headlight. It had that same quality. It was not paired. Between the crook of the tree for about 3 seconds, it went from 4 o'clock position to the 10 o'clock position diagonally. Went behind some foliage or tree trunks or whatever. In other words, I lost sight of it for about twice over the course of those 3 seconds, but I saw it. And I said to the guys, "Oh, it's a headlight over there." And they said, "There's no road over there at all. Like, there's a mountain and there's a road on the other side of the mountain, but there's no way up there." And it was dead quiet, so it wasn't an ATV either. So I saw a moving light. But that's the thing. Like, so much of the stuff I have in my experiences fall into the sort of maybe category. So I would need, like, that long-term, that long stretch of time to talk myself into what I saw. Yeah.
I think what I want to see is pupils, and just enough, focus in on what that is. That's how you got the full face.
Yeah.
Maybe just a couple details, 10 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I say 3 seconds, and it's like, well, if it's kind of got its back turned to me and it's moving, I might be able to talk myself into it being a bear. But yeah, if you can get like a full face, that's something else.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you, but I will talk to you soon about some things. Where can people find you? You got anything coming up recently, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another show, or?
Not another book for a little while. I'm working on some projects, but you can find more information about me at joshuacutchin.com. That's JOSHUACUTCHIN.com. Coming up on March 23rd, I'm teaching a 9-class course on the near-death experience through the Cosmos Institute. That's Cosmos with a K. Their website is cosmosinstitute.org. And it's going to be a lot different than a lot of other near-death experience classes because it's an outgrowth of my work on my last nonfiction book, Ecology of Souls, which is sort of showing how a lot of these different encounters with the paranormal have a lot of the hallmarks of near-death experiences, and how death seems to bleed into these other encounters, even though we don't necessarily think that it's related. So that's cosmosinstitute.org, and that class will start March 23rd.
Cool. All right. Well, we will put all that in the comment or the post-production stuff too. So shoot me a link with some of that, because I'll forget half of this. So
will do. I'll do that right as soon as we sign off. But it's been a great time chatting, fellas. It went by quicker than I thought it would.
It really did. I'd like to maybe have you over on my show one of these days, if you wouldn't mind.
Let me know. Drop me a line. Yep.
There you go, stealing my people again.
I'm not trying. I hate an interesting person. I'm sorry. That's what I do.
No, well, absolutely. And I got an idea for something I want to talk to you about too. As soon as you start talking, it just a little click. So, all right, Josh. All right. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, y'all.
All right. See you soon. All right. Let me do my thing here about.
Let's get ready to rumble.
I'm Miranda Maverick, and when I'm in fight camp, I never listen to the Sport Cat podcast.
Hello there. Welcome back. That was a great show. It was a great show. All right. Well, we have, she's been patiently waiting backstage, and I hate to keep a lady waiting. So we have Tiffany. I think you're familiar with Tiffany. You're the one who introduced us.
Hello, Tiffany Doran. I thought you were going to be at Paranormal Odyssey. Thought you were asking me about being on there, watching that. Oh, I didn't know we were on. Looks like I am watching the show.
You sure are.
You were watching it. She was afraid to be left alone with me. So.
Yeah.
I've slept with him in the woods. It's a thing.
Was he the big spoon or the little spoon?
He was the whole drawer. He was.
That was the big spoon.
Y'all are funny. Look, before the show, my whole setup on my desk fell. So my ring light had balanced there perfectly for 2 weeks. And as soon as I was getting to go on with y'all, like everything fell. So,
in our pre-show stuff talked about that, didn't we?
Yes.
Talking about crazy things happening.
Yeah, so my lighting is completely off, but it's fine.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We're gonna have this on radio as well, so they won't see you on radio. So
well, good.
I'm always said I had a face for radio, so it worked for me. So
y'all are funny.
Oh, well, thank you, Tiffany. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm dying to get a hold of your books too, so we're going to talk about that too. And missing some comments here while I was pushing other buttons.
Mr. Wendell's in the house. I was talking to him.
Wendell's always here.
Yeah.
Wendell is my favorite fan that I can't steal from Bobby. So Bobby would deal with shirt. I know the story.
Wendell met me and Alan Cersei and put us in the same category. So I'm keeping Wendell. He's got winded me with flattery. Now I introduced Wendell to Alan Cersei, who's a famous author from Tennessee, and the lead singer of Heartland, who I know. You know, I loved her first. He's like, that's him? I'm like, yep, that's him.
That is funny.
Then he puts me in the same category. I'm like, yep, you're right, Wendell.
That's a good category to be in.
I only give Bobby Dizzle 3 stars, so.
Yeah. Aluminum. Album's going to go aluminum.
Good Lord. Tell me, I know you've got books and you love Dogman. So tell us a little bit about it. We were talking about Dogman earlier on. I don't know if you caught any of Josh. He has some very interesting topics.
I did. And you guys, he's a rough act. That's a hard act to follow. I mean, because Josh Cutchin is come on.
What's funny is I had no idea who I was going to be. I just jumped on here because I just gotten free and I was like, okay, we'll just talk to this guy. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I heard him on another podcast the other day. He was on there with Timothy Renner. And I was like, no way, I'm coming on after him.
That's how it is.
Better step up my game.
You've got this. I've got.
You hang out with Wayne Cutherow all the time. You're good to go.
Yep.
It's true. Y'all are going to be at Smoky Mountain Bigfoot thing this spring, or is it summer? I don't remember.
July.
Summer.
We're going to get there the 26th, but the Bigfoot Con in Smoky Mountains is the 27th.
Okay. That's a good time. I went to one, I guess it was right before COVID. Yeah, it was right before COVID, and it was really good. So, and then I think they canceled it for 2 years because of COVID. So, but they've had it a year since then, but yeah, it was a good time when we went. So
that's wild. That's the only thing that got canceled in that area during COVID. You were up there like 8 times during then. From 2020 to 2022, I was in Gatlinburg like 9 times.
I think it was probably the speakers where they were coming from, flying and all that stuff, travel. I think that was the biggest part of it from what I heard from, I'm trying to see his face. Can't think of his name, but I think that was the biggest thing. It was the travel. Because people didn't want to get stuck on a plane or, with that group. And so I don't blame people. So I didn't want COVID, but I ended up with it anyhow, and I stayed home. So
you're special. That's special.
I went to Gatlinburg with COVID.
Shame on you, Bobby.
I didn't
spread it.
I called it Smoky Mountain variant.
BobbyDizzle.com.
I didn't know.
Complaints.
I took antibodies like 2 weeks later and had antibodies. I was like, I bet that's what that crap was. Because I nostrils stung and I had a headache for a minute.
Yep.
But
yes, I have been married for over 20 years to the love of my life, Mr. Zach. He is known best on the internet as Mr. Tiffany.
I love Zach.
I'm going to get him a shirt. I just got to find out. I just need to get one made, figure out where I can get one made. And he already said he'd wear it. So that would be really cool if I could find a shirt and have it made for him to wear to the Smokies. That would be cool.
If you don't, it's a sin because I want my picture with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have 4.5 months, so I will get on that.
Wendell can get a T-shirt made in like a week and a half. I mean, you just need to outsource it.
Yeah. Yeah, because he said you get it out.
I was going to say, I got a guy too, so got I got it, guys. So yeah, we could definitely make that happen.
I gotta get a picture with him. He made one of my podcast clips.
Yeah.
It's all about Zach.
Yeah. He sure did. Because it was effing gone.
Fast. It was gone.
Gone with the wind. That's funny. But I came into this world. Well, I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot. And my dad actually introduced me to that world when I was 12. And, he was in Vietnam, and I'm really thinking he may have seen some of those rock apes over there.
Mm-hmm.
That might be where he got that. I don't know, but he's the first one who introduced me to Bigfoot and extraterrestrials. So I was like super curious from the time I was 12. Got married, had kids. I did retail. I have like 25 years of customer service. So, but I finally quit my job last May, actually on Mother's Day. So yay me. But then Wayne had reached out to me the day after and had asked me if I would be interested in writing little episodes for Paranormal Odyssey. And I said, yeah, sure. So we came up with an idea and a name for it. And then that's when the Unfamiliars was born. And so then I think it was a week later, Brian from Sasquatch Odyssey reached out to me and wanted me to do the same for him. So since I was doing Bigfoot for Wayne, that I didn't want to do Bigfoot for both of them, So I was like, well, I'll do Dogman. And that's when Dogman Terror in the Woods was born. So fast forward, I did that. And that's hard to write two shows at one time. One came out a week earlier than the other. So, but I sat down and they were turned into novels. And then Hanger One picked them up. I think it was in August of last year. So they're on pre-order now through Hanger One Publishing. But to sit down and write two novels, let's see, in 3 months, that's a lot. That was a lot of.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How'd you get that down with the editing and stuff?
Well, I have this nifty little editor tool on Word. So I cleaned it up as much as possible. And then I sent it to Alex and they did everything else.
You use Clippy?
No, it's just the editor that comes with Word.
Yeah. Remember Clippy?
Yeah.
Remember the little paper clip that would help you in Microsoft Word?
I don't remember.
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
I don't know, but see, Bobby's younger than me, so I should know. But I don't.
Bobby's younger than all of us, so. I don't know. He had a big 4.0 not long ago, so he's getting close.
He's getting close. But before I had yes, dude, I have I go to the chiropractor. It works.
Yeah. Kickboxing, keep in mind at Bay. I've already been. I went for like 6 months.
Did you?
The chiropractor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It stopped. It stopped helping any, and I was going to kickboxing, which kind of loosened me up, and so I just stopped going. $70 a month.
It's good stuff. I only pay mine $40.
We had one. You walk in, they pop you, and you leave.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Here in Atlanta, they're like snap, crackle, pop next. So it'll be
exactly. I'm in there less than 10 minutes, and I walk out, and I'm completely symmetrical, and everything works.
Did you have like the unlimited visits though? I didn't know if that was like I could go and scan in, and if a bed was open, I'd go and do it, and they'd pop me a couple times, I'd leave. I could go like 2 or 3 times a week.
Actually, I have several friends that are chiropractors up in Knoxville, and I keep telling them they're a racket.
Hey, it helped. It helped till I got better and started doing yoga and going back to kickboxing.
Yeah, because the longer you sit, the stiffer you get.
And the yoga is what got me out of it.
I thought many times if I had not went to paramedic school, I would. My second choice would have been chiropractic, Even though I get my grief about it, that would have been my second choice because I actually am kind of fascinated by it. So, just like the emergency medicine. So,
Dr. Glenn.
ditch Dr. Glenn. So you have written these novels in such a short period of time. We had an author on here that said that she had one dream, and it was such a vivid and long dream that she got a complete 400-page novel out of it.
Jesus.
Wow. Yeah. And so I don't know how you do that, because I sit here and I'll plink on little things that I'm, trying to bring out to put in word, and it's like I'm going. How do you maintain the focus? And what is your secret?
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people, and I didn't do this when I was writing The Unfamiliars or Dogman Terror in the Woods or my other 2 published books, which are completely different genres. They're romance suspense. I will listen to classical music, just low in the background. They say if you listen to classical music, it makes you smarter, but I'm like the picture of that does not work, but it does help some people. But I can sit down in front of the laptop, and just if I have the start of an idea, I can just write it, and it just flows.
Wow, that's a talent. It really is. Some of the people that I surround myself with, they taught me remote viewing, and that's one of the things they talk about is when you see things like you're speaking of, that you're actually viewing them. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, because I can see, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I can see the scene in my head, and then it's just piecing it together in the right words, and keeping up with the timeline and making sure all that is straight. But I'm not one to sit down and make this outline like they teach you in school. If I had to make an outline, I would not be able to write. So I am by definition a pantser. I just do it by the seat of my pants, and it works out pretty well. So,
well, I think that's probably how I do it too.
Yeah, and if you're seeing it, you're visualizing it, you're letting that information flow, and it's. Yeah, I never could do it the other way. It's like when they start teaching you how to draw things. I can't draw a straight line, but if I sit down and put my mind to it, and I'm like, okay, I got this, and I just start kind of letting my brain do it. I can't. No.
What's they call a murder board, where they take in all the characters and do the yarn across it?
Yes.
In a big room. That's how you see a lot of the authors doing it. Just have a room in their house full of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I have red yarn everywhere because my brain is just it just fires off everything. But if I have an idea come to me, and I did it with, I wrote Desires of the Heart. I finished that in 2017. But it's one of those things, if you're driving down the road and an idea comes to you, you need to, make a note to yourself, because I'll forget it by the time I get home. And it doesn't matter how close I am to home, I'll forget it. So if I was driving down the road and there was a certain song that I actually wrote one of the scenes in the book to. So then I took that song and I made a mental note of where I was going to put what I was thinking in this book per this song. So when I listened back to the song, I knew exactly what I was going to write.
How do you make a note when you're driving? This is a serious question.
Well, you have, your phone. You can talk to, I can't say it, but you could talk to SIRI.
The S word.
Yeah.
I've done it before. You know how you can just tap the side to the screen and it slides down all your options?
Mm-hmm.
And I've hit video and just out of the corner of my eye and just made sure it was recording, glance at it real quick, and then made it like that.
You could do it like that too.
Because I got my phone on my dash like a cop. So it's not safe, but when you're on a stretch of road, nobody's there, you got a quarter of a second.
So
I was going to see if there was a secret button that you had a shortcut created where you tap it 3 times and it comes up with the audio app or something.
All my police friends at BobbyDizzle.com. So
come at me. My motor's bigger. My motor's bigger than every cop's motor.
Oh, whatever. You got to drive a Toyota.
It's a 5.7, brah. These cops driving Ford Explorers around here. Get off me.
Oh, yeah, Alabama they do. So,
Yeah.
Tiffany, have you ever had any experiences with these creatures that you've written about? I know the dog man is one me and you talked about prior to this. Have you had any personal experiences?
I have not. And thank goodness I have not with the dog man. And all the stories that you hear and because I did, even though Dogman Terror in the Woods is primarily fiction, I did do research because as a writer, when you write, you want people to understand that, you do understand what you're talking about and everything's in proportion with what is being told in these encounter stories. And so I did do a lot of research on it, and I am super glad that I've not ever had a Dogman encounter.
I don't blame. I haven't either, because all the encounters I've heard have not been pleasant. They're not the warm and cuddly bears, Not that I say Bigfoot is, but by far the people that I've talked to that have had any type of encounter, whether it just be seeing one from a distance, they express that they didn't have happy thoughts and they knew to get away. So,
yeah, there was one I listened to the other day. Not to promote another show on your show, but it was a podcast I was listening to the other day. And he had a gentleman on who claimed to have had a dogman experience. I think he had seen the same one twice. And then he had a very negative experience with the third one. But the first one, he was saying that he was a young child, I think maybe 12 years old. And this it was like a puppy dog man. It was very young, but it was injured. And so he had walked in there and he actually tended to it. Once it was aware that he wasn't going to hurt it, it allowed him to tend to it and fix I think his paw was hurt or something. And then he saw the same one as it was older, but there wasn't any interaction there. And then his third experience was like the awful kind you always hear. So I haven't had any dogman experiences though, thank goodness, because I've not heard really a good encounter at all.
Yeah, me either. So, aside from the ghost stuff, have you had any other type of Bigfoot or ET even, or they may be the same, who knows? But
yeah, I haven't seen any lights. I wouldn't mind seeing lights because the more I learn about them, I think they're, intricately, they're just really cool things. I have not had any UFO experiences. My husband had his own Bigfoot 3-second sighting. I think it was in 2021-ish. And then I started having, rocks left in front of our house and stacked up on our rock wall and things.
1 second, Tiffany. Good afternoon or good evening. You're on the air. This is somebody calling in. So can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you, Glenn.
Hey, what's going on?
I sent y'all links to for their shirts.
I saw that. So.
And make sure you get the next size up from what you actually wear because they do shrink.
Okay. All right. That's good advice, Wendell. All right. So I will make sure. Well, you just told her. So do you have any questions for her while you're here, Wendell? I mean, you are mine and Bobby's biggest fans.
Me and her, we spoke for a while earlier today.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Well, good deal. All right. Well, go find Dina. Tell her she's missing the show.
Yeah. So take her to the Apple store.
All right, I'll do that.
All right, Wendell. Talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Like I'm on a sports show right now. It's Wendell from Anniston.
As soon as I saw the number, it doesn't say who. I just saw where it was from. I was like,
205.
I was like, I didn't put his comment on the screen. I love Wendell to death. Earlier, I had a tape show. I'm sorry, we got way off subject here, Tiffany. But I had a tape show, and he's messaging me going, "Why aren't you answering me?"
Bless his heart.
He got so mad at me one time. The first time he found out I was doing a recording, he goes, "This is stupid." He goes, "You should tell somebody." I said it was a live premiere.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, Tiffany, back to we conclude the Wendell intermission and go back to Tiffany.
Kevin S is here. What are you working on right now, Kevin?
Silence.
Yeah, go ahead, Tiffany.
That was an inside joke. That was an inside joke. Sorry.
Okay.
TPS reports.
That's part of it. That's part of the joke.
But yeah, so I mean, he had his experience, and then I had experienced we had rocks that were laid up on top of the wall, just things that we couldn't explain away. Nothing made sense, It was
Well, I remember Josh. That's not uncommon.
right.
Yep. Sometimes freaky, weird things happen in the woods, and a lot of people don't even recognize them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't even oh, well, those are acorns falling, not going that way. They're not, or exactly. So it's like they automatically want to go to the part of the brain where everything's warm, cozy, friendly, nothing's going to hurt you.
It's like Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before I started this, that's where I wanted my brain. I wanted my brain and the comfort, And then it was like when I was like, God was saying, leave this job. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have health insurance and I'm, making this much money and this much money is going to this and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't care. Leave. And so I was like, okay. And so I left, and that's what started everything. And so when I did, and I'm not going to talk about this long because my computer will freeze, but when I did this show with Keith Linder by myself, I was telling you before, my screen froze for 8 minutes, and I was like the worst face, and I was frozen for 8 minutes like this. But no, before this, chicken with a capital C. I didn't want to talk about the scary stuff, but now it's like, come on, let's have a conversation. And so when he had reached out to me, I like in depth studied his case for 8 days and before he came on. But beforehand, I wouldn't have done that. But it's you have to get out of your comfort zone to grow, because if not, you're just going to shrivel up. So a lot of
it's weird to get out of your comfort zone like that. To get into the shit with the haunted stuff, that's a different world.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah.
Because you watch Matt Moneymaker and everybody and Zach Bagans do stuff, but you're in there with it. Ooh, it's different.
Yeah. No, it's very bizarre getting out of that headspace and jumping into another headspace. But it's necessary because, like I said, you don't grow in your comfort zone. You have to, just trust and go. Because had I not trusted that leading, I would still be working retail. I would still be miserable. It would be 10 times more toxic than what it was. And I would just be a horrible shell of a person. So I was like, all right. And so then since I trusted that, my first book came out, is on Amazon, Desires of the Heart. I was able to finish this sequel to Desires of the Heart, which is Forbidden Desires, which is also on Amazon. And then the opportunity to have these 2 books seemingly fall into my lap to do. I mean, and if I hadn't trusted and just followed my, leading, I would be awful. So
you said that your bad coworker turned into the boss.
No, she was my boss. Yeah. Yes. Oh, you're talking about, okay. So when I worked there, and you'll see her in our chats too, her name is Candy. She was my boss. She's like my best friend. But yeah, there was several bad coworkers there. And when she left, somebody else should have had her job, but they had hired another person, and he immediately got that job. And it was just like, it was a horribly toxic situation.
They happen more times than not sometimes.
It's amazing how one person can change to make a situation so much worse.
Yes.
I mean, in any field, I know what your husband does in any field, especially our field. 24 hours with the wrong person, and you come home wanting to bite the head off of a bat or something. So, you know, you've been there. And remind me sometime to tell you, I don't think I followed my inner voice until I got drugged down the road. So, but I mean, I guess Bobby's heard this story a million times, and I'm sure maybe the people listening on Yerg's Radio or WDJY or Fairfax Radio haven't heard it, but more than one time I was knocked out of my career as a paramedic. Never listened to it, always fought. I literally, incurable brain disease. They say you'll never get back on a truck. I fought my way back, climbed out, was on the fire truck. It's where I wanted to be. Perfectly happy. Answer a call one day. This voice in my head says, "Don't get bit." Damn hell's this thing talking about? Like Bobby's heard me say, there's little chihuahuas on the front porch. There's a fight going on. PD's coming, sirens, you know, helicopter, all that good fun stuff. I'm like, I can kick the chihuahuas. Data clear. Next time this voice in my head screams, "Don't get bit." I'm like, what the Sam hell is this? And now I'm arguing with myself. In my own head. Exactly. And then I didn't realize, I felt a tap in my hand. I didn't realize it was a pit bull attacked me.
Oh no.
Yeah, she got me good. She got me 3 real good times before I got to kick in. And so that took me, I can't hold or grip anything, so can't fire, you can't lift stretchers, you know. So it took me out a lot. But the thing that I remember is every time before, because my wife brought this up, she said, "That was your 3rd strike, dummy." I'd had a roof fall on me at the fire department, got back up, went to it, had incurable brain disease, forced myself back in. She said, "This was it." She goes, "You go back in, you're going to die." Right. But at the end, after I was bit, it told me, and it hurt like hell after I got bit. It said, "It's only going to hurt." The voice in my head said, "It's only going to hurt for a little while." Well, that's reassuring. You could have said, "Don't look out for the dog." I'm now arguing with this voice in my head. Blood's running down my arm. There's a fight going on the front porch. Cops are running by me. Nobody notices me and the dog scrimmaging in the front yard. And then it said, "I'll never forget what it felt like. I'll never forget this." The voice said, "Everything's going to be okay." Mm-hmm. I'm not clear what that means, but I feel more at peace with it. And me and Bobby have gone back and forth about the manifestation and a bunch of other things. So maybe I should listen more often, I guess. My wife would agree with that, I'm sure. So she wanted me off the streets a long time ago.
You guys, Lord love you guys, but y'all in the EMS field, y'all are just stubborn. You're just so dang stubborn.
Well, you know, it's fun. What other job can you have where you get to drive fast, you get to cut the clothes off of women, and you get tickets? Come on, what's the best in the world?
Okay, but can we be real, Glenn? How many women?
Maybe 2 in 20 years.
How many good-looking women were there that weren't 80 years old?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I ran to the strip club, all right?
You had the answer. You had the answer is the funniest part.
I knew what she was going to say right on. And she's absolutely right. That was a good call, too. If you've never seen strippers fight, holy cow, they should put that on TV. That is some good entertainment. Pete even stands back going, "I ain't done." Let them, they'll work this out. So, it's true. Glitter dust flying like fairy dust. It was great. It wasn't until they get the high heels that I got a little bit worried. But we'll say it for another story. Man, see, Tiffany, I warned you. Ooh, shiny, and I'm gone. So
squirrel. It's okay.
Exactly. And I'm gone. But
it's fine. But no, you were talking about that you had eventually come to terms with it and a peace about it. And that's how it was for me too. Because I fought it. I thought it too. And I was like, I can't leave all this laying on the table. I just can't, But then the longer I stayed, the worse and worse it got. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't stay here. And that's when it, Zach was telling me to quit. My friends were telling me to quit. But it took that inner just peace saying, it is going to be okay. You're being led away from here for something better. This isn't where you're supposed to stay. It's time to move. So I get it.
Yeah. I haven't figured it out. And I talk to Bobby pretty much every day in some shape, fashion, form, text, messages. And,
a little perverted, honestly.
Well, I kind of got a man crush on you. And
I mean, you're Bobby Dizzle. Come on.
Perfectly acceptable.
How do you not like to be Dizzle? I told him with this stuff, with the podcast and stuff, some days I don't have a clue what I'm doing. He's like, how are you doing this? Hell, I don't know. So, it's just fun. It's natural. Yeah. And so I'm finding my inner peace with it. Like, but it's not, it's just still, it's recertification time. I'm sure you know what that means.
I do.
And I was to the point where I was like, I don't have all the classes and I don't know if I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I was finally like, well, but what if I needed to go back? So this was a research class. but that's the more, I guess, realistic. If I got to feed the kid or wife, kids, whatever, I guess, there's still, I could do something. So I guess that's the more logical part, but the rest of me, it's taken a while. The PTSD sucked. After the dog bite, I never had anything like that before in my life. And it wasn't just one call, it was a bunch of calls, but yeah, it's getting better to where it feels like this is what I need to be doing. Yeah. So
Aren't you retired though? Aren't you retire and get paid?
Well, there's a legal battle with the city that it's not really ongoing at the moment. We're kind of in mediation.
You told me this before. I just forgot.
Yeah.
I've always thought you were retired.
It's the age. Well,
it's my oldest, the gray hair. It's the city. The city is great if you're going to go out on the 25-year plan, then give you the watch and let you go down the road. The city is a bunch of jerks when you have to go out and cost them a fire truck because you needed 3 surgeries to repair your arm. So, they fight me for everything. And anybody listening, oh God, I'm going into DC. I'm saying this. The government will lie. The government will lie to you. They're your best friends until no. And you know what? None of my coworkers I thought were my great friends come to visit me. Mm-hmm. No calls, nothing.
Yeah.
That makes it worse. So, but okay, this show's not about me, it's about Tiffany. So
I don't even know where I'm at right now.
We have entered the twilight zone.
Well, see, we tricked Bobby into coming over here, so this is kind of a combination of.
I'm mentally picturing myself in Kate's Cove with Zach just riding around.
Wait a minute! If you got a man crush on him, I might need to talk to him. So.
I think there's a bromance, Glenn. I think,
I'll have to meet this guy. So we have to tell him to be Dizzle. So
he's got a decent story.
Yeah. What did you call him, Bobby? The Travis Kelce of Bigfooting?
Yeah. Travis. I forgot about that. I called you the Taylor Swift or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yes. Yeah, because you were talking about, we had just batted around the idea of going to Tennessee, and you had talked about trying to get up there. I was like the Taylor Swift, and I'm like, holy, well, thanks. And then you said, yeah, and Zach's the Travis Kelce of
That's true. I'm gonna have to meet Mr. Tiffany. So.
I think it's gonna be on the weekend where it's right before my wife goes back to school. She's a teacher, And so I may have like a green light to get the kid out of the house, at least one or two of them.
Oh, that's cool.
So I may be able to come up there.
That would be fun.
Like, well, so just grab one or two and come on.
Yeah. Like I'm so excited about this. Well, we haven't been on vacation for several years. And of course, I quit my job. So there went that. But so I was like, man, and I haven't been to the Smoky since I was 12.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, and it's so exciting. Oh my gosh, it is so exciting. And we were on our show last night talking to Randy Stewart, and I was like gushing because I'm so excited. But so my birthday's July 25th. We're leaving the next day to go to Tennessee, and then the con is the day after that.
That's going to be fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're going to have a blast.
How long are you staying?
Until the 29th.
Well, see, I can give you a couple of tips on what to do.
Yeah.
Know my way around.
Well, and the cabin that we're staying in, it's on 5.5 acres. It's completely secluded. There's no other cabins around.
Nice.
Yes, it's on a dead end road, and it looks over a humongous pasture. So I told Zach, it's in Weary, I think.
Oh, Weir's Valley.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty one.
We say it like that. Yeah. I know exactly where that is. Yeah. Well, if you heard us talking earlier, set your intent well in advance. Go to bed with it on your chest and let it out there into the ether.
You know what I would really I really, really want to see a Bigfoot. Okay, but I don't know if my anxiety self can handle that. But I really do want to have those glimpses. But you know what I would love to see? A fairy. Fairies are my favorite.
In the Smoky Mountains, that's quite possible. It's quite possible. The folklore up there is
the folklore is strong with that one.
You should probably, at some point in time, if my daughter is listening, you should talk to my daughter Tiffany. So she could probably. It's funny. I will go somewhere and I will see the Bigfoot or something like that, and she will have something totally different. So it's kind of weird. I mean, not necessarily that we're together at the same time, but that she sees something different than I do. Mm-hmm. It's like she's not aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only little person I ever saw had bright yellow eyes, like they had jaundice. And I couldn't really tell if they had a beak or something. There was kind of a facial deformity, but they had these really bright. And at first I thought it was an owl. Mm-hmm. Because I even swung back around with my binoculars to make sure I was seeing what I thought I was seeing. And it's like, what is that? I don't know that I can that doesn't register. Yeah. It's not confused. So, have you ever talked to Vic? What's his last name? Bobby Cundiff? We just had him last week or the week before.
Is that his real name? Cundiff?
Uh-huh.
No, his real name's probably like Steve or something. I mean, I really don't know the answer to that question.
He just doesn't sound like a Steve though. But no, we're friends on Facebook, but I haven't physically talked to him.
He talks about dealing with people's trauma after Dogman.
Mm-hmm. They seem legit about that too.
Oh yeah, I had never really heard anybody put it that way, but I can certainly see that. I mean, especially with Dogman, but it never clicked, I guess, because I've always had my mind opened as a young person, like you did, to Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah, and Dogman just completely came out of nowhere, and he's like, I am here, and I am taking over the scene. Bigfoot, step aside.
It's the Bigfoot. Dogman is the tactical bro of cryptids. I'm telling you, real or not, it's just a cool thing to do now. You know how whenever the people talk about their dieting, and they always say, well, I don't eat red meat. And I'm like, well, you still eat everything else. You just got back from Zaxby's. Like, we're trying to, I mean, Dogman is exactly, it's the tactical bro, cool kid on the block. I don't believe in Bigfoot, but Dogman, yeah. I get a tattoo on your arm.
That's what gets me too. Like, how is it okay for you? I don't understand that. I don't understand how they're like, well, I believe in this, but my mind's not open enough to believe in this. But if your mind's open enough to believe in, Bigfoot or Dogman.
If you put a Dogman post in the Bigfoot group, everybody likes it and it gets accepted. You put a Bigfoot group in a Dogman group, you get suspended for a week. Ask me how I know.
It makes no logical sense. It really doesn't make logical sense.
They're like, oh, we ain't Bigfoot. Shit, get out of here. Redneck.
No, it was the same. It was the same way if you would put UFOs and Bigfoots together there for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably just been the past 10 years that it's almost been getting accepted that there's some connection with them.
Dogman.
We did that live, and it was me, Brian, and Wayne on that Bigfoot podcast about the Bigfoot and the UFO connection. And there were, I don't know, it was a mixed crowd, and it's a mixed crowd on the Paranormal World Production Facebook page. Like, you have some that are like just so passionate that there's this connection, and then you have some that are so passionate that that's just a bunch of
there's
you know what I mean? Yeah. But you have these incidences where you have Bigfoot being seen with UFOs or coming out of one or going in one, or the orbs turning into Bigfoots,
Portals. How do you explain portals? Everybody pretty much will agree portals exist, but how do you explain them?
Right.
I got nothing. I mean, I've not personally seen one. I saw a video of one that was from our campsite, but I don't know what it was. I don't know how it appeared. I don't know what, so.
And then
definitely not going near one anymore.
Right. Because you don't know what's on the other side of that.
I got an update on that for you too. So yeah. But,
and how dare you, Glenn, to not take a picture and put it all over the internet? There's that.
Well, do you know Trey Hudson? He's the leader of our group, and he's an Alabamian, and he's been holding on to the video. He had a pretty high up position in the government, so I think there was another reason for not releasing it. Not that he knew something secret or anything. I'm not trying to throw conspiracy theory on Trey, but I think if you say something like, I saw a little mice men dancing on my piano top, and you got a job like that, they're gonna sack you. So, so I don't blame him one bit for that. But bad things happened with our portal incident. So,
I might be thinking about that one where people went in to I don't know. I watch a lot of things and listen to a lot of things.
To the portal. And 2 people had a bad experience not long afterwards.
Yeah. So it is.
Yeah, probably. I won't go any further because right now it's really personal. So I'll tell you off the air. It's private. So but we can't explain a lot of these things, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. That doesn't mean that, it's somebody to me, they discovered new creatures inside of Central Park. It may be a salamander or something. It's the most populated area on the earth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was just going to say there's a quote, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it said the evidence of absence is not the absence of evidence, or something like that.
I can get behind
that one before. The absence of evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the evidence of absence. I said it backwards. You guys know what I mean. But it's true. Just because people can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
I always said they haven't not found it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like getting yelled at for not doing the dishes. I haven't not done them yet.
They're still there. I can still do them.
Yeah,
I like that defense.
I'm an only child. I can twist things to get out of trouble. I'm the only one that can be blamed for stuff for 20 years of my life. I can get out of anything.
Like, not anymore, man.
No, that ship sailed. I just take my beatings.
That's right. Yeah, when you're married, you
take my lashings.
Yep. You take your lickings and you just go on. Yes, dear.
I don't know if you've met Mrs. Dizzle, but she did come in one night and completely push him off of the set. So
really?
Mrs. Dizzle, it was great. I've invited her back.
I've installed a vault door back here.
I was going to say, I've not met his wife.
Yeah.
He was like, not even the people in the chat like me. They like her more than me.
But that's how it usually works.
My whole family.
I know Zach came on.
Dizzle.
But Zach came on the scene, and like when we go live with Paranormal Odyssey, or we're, like 10 minutes from going live, and you have people already in the chat room and they're chatting it up, and I mean Zach's like front center. Once he says hello, the room just it just gravitates to him.
That's cool. That's cool. It's great to have that much of a following too. So, and there are a lot of really good people in this field, I guess is the best way of saying it. So
yeah,
I've made a lot of good friends from it.
I have too, and I've met the greatest people that I never would have met ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, I mean, like you and Bobby and Wade and Brian, and the list goes on and on and on, because everybody that comes into the chat rooms, and I mean, just sweet and just dear, kind people. Now you do have your I'm being polite because I know I'm on YouTube and radio. You do have the ones that are very, very, very off-putting, but I think as a whole, it's a good community. You just have to get in the right spot with it.
Yeah, you're always going to have trolls.
Oh yeah, and we're also supportive of each other. I go watch Bobby shows. Bobby comes over here. If Bobby's not watching, he's usually in the chat. Jessica, I'm sure you know Jessica Jones, good friend of mine. I'm always trying to watch her show. Her, she's asked me to come on it a few times, and so yeah, we're all supportive. She'll drop in here in the chat when she does too much work personally, but yeah, so that is the other nice thing. We're all supportive. We all care about each other. We all know each other. We might not even all believe the same thing. So
right. I don't believe any of it.
It's unique though, because it gives us, if everybody was the same and everybody agreed with everybody, it would be really boring. I mean, what would we, you know what I mean?
It'd be really stupid.
Yeah, I think having a difference of opinion is not a bad thing, but I think that you can handle that difference of opinion in a respectful way.
Mm-hmm. Especially if there's no evidence for any of the opinions. That's the crazy. Especially when there's no real evidence for any of the opinions. Like, how the heck are you an expert? Calm down, relax.
Exactly. I don't think there is no expert in any of these fields. Dogman, Bigfoot,
There's some self-proclaimed ones, but there's no real ones.
Right. Just because it's your opinion doesn't make it fact.
Yeah. All right. Because you read a lot of books.
I think a lot of the people who are really defensive and laugh emoji when it comes to a lot of this stuff are living in fear. Have a lot of fear of the unknown, and you can't turn loose of it. And I don't even think it's that scary to think that exists. I don't know why they're such a hard ass for it, like the super duper agnostic kind of guys.
Well, and two, it's easy to sit behind a screen and type away at the keyboard, and you're not in somebody's face saying it. So
it's
true. Yeah.
That.
Oh yeah, and you're always going to get one. So
yeah,
it is, and that is what it is, and you just laugh and go on about it, really. So, or he can call you, or I can call Bobby or Jessica, or vice versa.
I love it when I get them. I love them all day. I'll take a whole chat room full of them.
Well, I know you do dig it. So.
I'll get them pissed off at me. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's what I do at work. I throw the grenade in the room. Poor Wayne last week. I didn't see his message till it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna hate me. But yeah, I had to diffuse that one. I was getting rowdy.
I must admit, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I won't bring it up here, but one of his former peeps.
Got you. Yeah, we'll just let that lie.
Well, you know who he's talking about. I mean, but yeah, it was just like Brian. Brian was like going to battle. It looked like Avengers Endgame back.
Oh yes, he did tell me about that. Yes. Heard about it.
There was a private message from Wayne that said, "Kick this bitch." I didn't see it till like 10 minutes after it all went down. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yep. No, it's funny.
Wendell wants to know why he's the only one here in the chat. Wendell, you're my only fan. It's got to be.
Welcome to OnlyFans, starring Wendell.
You know, I don't know if Zach got a call or not. You know, I don't think. When did he was off yesterday. It hits Moco in waves. You know, they'll go a whole day and not have any calls, and then the next, especially because I'm on here with you guys, they're gonna be slamming.
Oh yeah. So, and don't you dare mention the Q word. Don't you dare.
Nope, don't say it.
Gosh, don't say it. Don't even say a word that rhymes.
Well, he's just screwed himself. So. Tones will go off right now. So.
Just don't say that. he'll text me.
I don't love anybody, trust me. I've done that for too many years. I still jump when I hear certain things. So you've been around this. You know how it is.
I've been married to him for 25 years, so I know what not to say in that area.
Yeah, I'm going to try and bring my wife. You can meet her. You two can tell horror stories. So she'll be like, finally, somebody that understands me.
Yeah, I get it. They're stubborn. They're hard-headed. They don't listen. They just have to learn the hard way.
And that's why I married her. So
I'm sure Zach can say the same about me.
It's true. It's true. But, you know, and what's funny is I'm taking her out in the woods and she's like, I don't know, you go out with all your friends doing this camping stuff, whatever. We weren't out there 30 minutes and she's like, was that what I think it was? You talked about? I'm like, yeah, that's what you think it is.
Now I told Zach today, I was talking to him and I said, look, we really do, you know, need to get into shape because if we or to walk down through this pasture into those trees, even off to the sides of us, I was like, I ain't gonna make it out of the woods. Because run faster
than him.
This is true. But he's a fast runner and I would be absolutely screwed.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I tell everybody I was the one attacked by the dog because my sergeant took off running to get into the fight and was ahead of me. My driver was behind me, dragging his feet, putting the truck in gear, getting the wheel chalked down. So I was the old slow one that was behind. All the cops had done run past me. So I was like, yeah, the dog saw me like Omaha's Wild Kingdom. It's like, I'm going to get that fat bastard. So.
Yep, you were toast. You were toast.
Yeah, I can laugh about it now.
Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah. And to hear the guys narrating, and there's the fat paramedic with the cheetah approaching him from behind. He has, don't get bit, asshole. I've told that voice in my head 1,000 times. You could have been just a little clear, you know, like big dog behind you, but don't get bit. Yeah.
The big dog would have helped.
Yeah, you know, run would have been wow. That would have probably made it worse. So that probably wouldn't have worked out too well. But
yeah, that would have kicked your prey drive in, and you would have gotten bit on the butt and not the hand, and that would have been more traumatic.
Yeah, when we pulled up, and this goes back to the PTSD thing, I could still see the door open. I was pissed at the driver because he put me right in the ditch when I got out. So I'm like, old, you know, I'm getting down slowly. Screw this. They're already fighting. They don't need me. And like, I see my sergeant literally at full speed turn in front of the engine and go. And I'm like, in my head, and you've heard this 1,000 times, you never run on a call because you don't want to become part of the call. Right. And that's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm like, I ain't running.
Emergency. That's not your emergency.
I know, the fight was already on. I was just invited to the party. And so yeah, and the driver's taking his time. So I'm like, just Loading along. Next thing I know, cheetah jumped out and got me. The only thing that was good was she was an old fat dog like me, so she had the weight on her side, but
well, there you go.
She was an old fat dog.
Didn't tell me if she'd been a younger dog, she would have probably went for and tore off my calf muscle first. Right. That's what he told me from his experience with him. He says, and then when you're on the ground, you'd drop pretty quick. She'd went in for your face. I'm like, wow, I'm kind of glad it was just a hand. I can lose a few fingers. So
right. Well, you and I were talking about the Dogman story out of Tennessee.
Yes.
And I had actually, when I finished talking to you, I actually looked up. Is it Coke? It's COCKE, Tennessee?
County. It's actually Cock. Yeah, okay, I can say that on the radio because it's Cock County. So.
Okay, well, I'm trying to be proper here, so I didn't know how to pronounce it. But it was talking about Amber Miller and what was his name? Troy Aarons, I think was his name. He was 51. She was 29, and so. I looked up that whole thing, and when you were talking about the pit bull, that made me think because it was comparing. They were saying that, or this guy was saying that he found Amber leaned up against a tree, and there were 3 cane corsos licking her, and she's crying, saying, "I don't want to die," and she's like trying to get up this tree. But so they were comparing the bite force of a pit bull to a cane corso, just to have some kind of comparison there. And it was, I have a hard time understanding why a dog that was just attacking you is going to stop and just lick you. So when I was reading that,
that's not what they do.
I was like, what sense does that make?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And so the guy was found, and they got to hype up the story. You know how it goes. They got to hype up that story. He had methamphetamine in his bloodstream and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, but they cannot identify with him nor her. It's all speculation, and I understand that. But the coroner could only say that it was massive, body injuries with her, and she became sepsis, and she died from her injuries. And then with him, he had scratch marks across his chest and numerous attacks, and there were paw prints found on the ground, but nothing definitive saying it was dogs.
Yes.
And I'm like, dog man, we don't think about that in 2021.
Yeah. That was when somebody brought up to me recently, and I wish I could find them, a PDF file of the actual sheriff's department report, and the detectives, I guess it would be in report. And I can't find them.
I've never heard this before.
Cock County, Tennessee, there was a lady that she died. Let me rephrase that. After being attacked by a wild animal. They brought DNR in. Why would you bring DNR in? Yeah. There was a lot of strange things with that case. And right. DNR plainly says in everything about, we want no part of this. No way, any way we can deny any culpability, we want no part of it. They're like, we don't do police investigations.
And then, and then it was saying that generally, if the canine in question cannot be found, a warning is put out to the public. However, nothing was released, nothing was said for 17 days.
Yes. And then they said that dogs have been put down and buried in one report I read.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, see, and that's what I read.
The dog up. They dug one of the dogs up, didn't they?
They did, because when they went and searched the guy, because he was actually arrested for possession of marijuana and I think a domestic or something. But they had found a shallow grave in his yard, and so they had taken DNA from that dog. And I'm assuming, because it said that they took another dog, but none of the DNA results were on the website.
Yeah. And I think I know where I got those from, and I don't know if I can access them again. So, but you might know the person, so I'll stick you up that tree.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was because somebody brought that up to me, and it had just clicked on something else I was researching that came up, and I was like, "There's no way that had to be Dogman." It was just one of those things where it brought back something else. Because initially, when it came across, it came across my desk. I'll put it like that. That's being facetious. But yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. It's the sheriff's checked it out. It checked out. You know what I'm saying? So I just ignored it. But then it just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And today, when it came back to me, I'm like, click. And so now I'm trying to find the files. So I know they're not on this computer. Maybe they're on my laptop. But at any rate, I'm hoping if I find them, I will get them to you. If you find them online, get them to me. We'll swap them because it's a very fascinating story. And there's no real definitive answer. And the only ones that were screaming anything was the University of Tennessee Hospital. Mm-hmm. That was the strangest. And I couldn't, the staff at the hospital was the one coming out and saying things. So, because her family wasn't really speaking. So there wasn't there. Yeah. So,
I don't think there was a whole lot of conversation between, the police and her family, and Mr. Aarons was 51 and he was homeless and he was, addicted to drugs. And so he didn't really have next to kin. Doesn't make him less of it. I mean, he's a human being.
Yeah, I agree.
Like everybody has issues. But he was pretty much just, swept to the wayside after the autopsy report came out. But I don't think there was a whole lot of communication with his family at all. And then she passed away 6 days later.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, there might be more that just haven't come to the surface or to the media. Cause that's, between Knoxville and Roanoke, you got Bristol, but there's not a whole lot of big cities there.
Right.
I don't know.
And it made me want to go down the rabbit trail and say, okay, well, what other cases of quote unquote wild dog attacks are there?
Me too. Me too. I was doing it right before the show. I was like, okay, I got to stop. I got to get ready for the show. So I was going down the rabbit hole. Do what, Bobby?
I said there's probably a bunch of them you don't know about when it comes to that.
Probably is.
Yeah, it's like Josh said, the DNR will flat out tell you to your face there are no Panthers in Georgia. There are no Panthers in Tennessee. I'm sure they tell you the same thing in Virginia.
And Alabama.
One at my mom's house. And it was the 3-second look. Yeah. It was enough for me to realize that, they're really here. So
they're there.
But, Tiffany, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got things to do and you don't want to talk to me all night. Maybe Bobby, you do. I know you don't like me as much. But it's okay.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
He's Mr. What have you got coming up? I know you got your shows. Tell us what you got coming up. Anything big and exciting besides for down the road in summertime going to the Smokies?
Well, right now, just my books. I am, leaning towards starting a nonfiction book, but I've always written fiction. So I have to learn how to, because they teach you in school all those works cited pages that you have to put down, and everywhere you get your information from has to be. I have to learn how to do that because it just comes from my brain and it's fiction. But I want to get started on that. But Dogman Terror in the Woods and The Unfamiliars are both out for pre-order right now. If you go to hangar1publishing.com, and the one in that is not the word one, it's the number one. So if you go to hangar1publishing.com, they are currently for pre-order. That makes them $17.99 a piece. Once pre-order is over, they will then be $23.99. So, and they get released at the end of this month.
Okay, go for it. Get your book. I still want an autograph one now. So.
Hey, I'm telling you. you know where you can find me.
That's why I'm going. That's the whole reason I'm driving.
Oh, y'all are sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, Wendell is saying that he's been chatting with Randy Savage, that he's a Bigfoot person. If he doesn't get him on mine or Bobby's show, I'm going to be upset. So
he's dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Slim Jim guy. That's what he's talking about. Oh yeah, yeah. It just hit me. Yeah, because I was 10 years. Well, I'm a little behind, but yeah, as soon as it clicks, Slim Jim guy. Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure there was a blue star beside that Randy Savage. So,
funny, the gentleman we had on our show last night, Randy Stewart. He used to be he was a pro wrestler, and now he's like pro wrestler turned everything else. Now he's Bigfoot and he's a radio. He does radio and he's just you name it, he does it. And so he had made a joke with me last night on the show. And he did the impersonation of Randy Savage. So that was really funny.
Well, that's cool. All right. Well, we are on WDJY now. I don't know if you had any help in that or what, but that was great. And then, of course, we're on Yerg's Radio. And then we just got picked up on Radio Fairfax, Fairfax Cable Channel 37, which I think is so cool because that's where I'm from in Virginia.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not like it's a huge deal, but it's kind of cool to say that's my NPR where I'm from, so it's just kind of bragging rights for me. So
yeah, but it is a big deal. It is a big deal.
Oh yeah, that's my other co-host Dina. That's what I tell her. We were arguing one day, and it just slipped out. I just looked at her and said, "Hey, look, I'm kind of a big deal." So that's been the inside joke with us. Like, hey, I'm kind of a big deal. You might have heard about me. I'm kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a thing. And not to because we've been over here for over an hour. But it is, and I guess I'm a humble person. And so I legitly had a panic attack in the car the other day. Like everything was finalized to go to Tennessee and it's a lot. And I was like, people really want to meet me, honey. I said, but I don't know why I'm weird.
That's why when you reply back to me when I said I wanted your autograph, you were like, what?
I had a food blog about 10 or 11 years ago, and it got big-ish for a little bit, 2,000 or 3,000 followers. And somebody recognized me at a boat ramp from the food blog. And I'm still friends with the dude. He goes, "You the guy from the blog?" I'm like, "Yeah, what the hell? You read that shit?"
Like, wow, okay. I know.
It's like, yeah.
So, Glenn was
we still talk.
My wife and I stayed in a hotel in Winchester on the way up to Vermont. And when we were checking in, I made eye contact with like the girl behind the girl checking us in. I don't know what her job was, but and she was kind of like her eyes locked with mine, and she was like, and I'm like, it had this weird thing, and I was like, wait a minute, she's on my Facebook, and it just kind of clicked. And then when we checked out, the owner was the one checking us out, and she's like, "Oh, did you have anything haunted happen while you were here? Anything spooky?" And she started telling me all these stories. She goes, "You gonna talk about us on your show?" I'm like, "People find me. You're in Winchester, Virginia."
I know, right? I know. I'm waiting for that, and I told my husband, I was like, gosh, I'm gonna have to start wearing my makeup out everywhere I go now, just in case somebody sees me and recognizes me.
Keep autographed headshots.
I know. See, and that was the thing. Glenn said I want an autographed picture, and I was like, I don't even have one of them.
Yeah, well, I meant book, but you the same thing. So because you sent me the picture, I guess that's how cross lines up. But yeah, so it's funny. I just like to talk to people. That's the way I do this. So it seems to work out. And if I have a brain fart, I think I can say that on FM radio. Bobby's usually there to pick me up. So he's. I would be perfectly honest with you. I love Bobby to death. I mean, he's great coming on the show. We have a great demeanor, back and forth banner. Yeah. So, and I talked him into driving 4 hours in the dark, coming to nothing but a latitude longitude. Think about that. So
I was going to do it again.
Yeah.
I was all set to do it again if the sky wasn't going to try to kill us.
Exactly. So that's how you know you got a friend, when you can just give them a latitude and longitude and say, meet me there at midnight.
Yeah. Bring some bags and a shovel.
That's what I was going to say. Don't ask any
questions. All right, Tiffany. We will look forward to meeting you in person. I'll try and drag the wife up there. Dizzle bring one of his 15 kids. We'll grab a meal or something. So I'm looking forward to it. And for Mr. Tiffany, I'm gonna have to find out these stories about you. I had not heard this, so I don't know.
Look on my playlist. It was Fast and Black and Fast. It's one of my videos.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Glenn, he is 6'1", and he's like, I don't know, 280. Well, now he's less, but I mean back then, and he was shook. He was shooketh. He didn't want me to leave him. He wanted me to stay in the backyard with him, and and we are very anal about our grass. We just are. But he didn't even finish the grass that day. He didn't even finish.
Wow, yeah, I'm gonna look this up. Yeah. Well, it sounds like Mr. Tiffany's one-on-one on my side the next time I go into a fight. I won't be the slow one.
Well, thank you for having me.
Coming on. And thank you for putting up with us. I know we wandered a lot, but it was more like friends hanging out than, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I chase squirrels all the time. So, I mean, it was fun chasing with my friends.
I was like, I'll just veer right off, and you got to sometimes bring me back. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
go
ahead.
You guys come check us out on Paranormal Odyssey. We have an after-hour show coming up Saturday. We're gonna have Steve Coles on at 10 p.m. Eastern, and then our normal. This is the second of third show that I'm doing this week. So we do have two of our own, and then at this one.
Hey, in 2 weeks Saturday, I'll be on that show.
Yep. Bobby's gonna come on with us.
All right.
2 weeks from now. It is 2 weeks.
Yeah, but thank you so much for having me.
You were more than well. You're welcome to come back anytime. So we got the toll-free number. Anytime you see us doing something stupid, just call out and go, would you get back on the subject? I'm only got so much time.
Quit chasing that damn rabbit.
Exactly. All right, Tiffany.
My secret, I am the rabbit.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bobby, that was a great show. Thank you for coming on.
Who would have thought?
It really was.
I'm glad I ate supper 10 minutes earlier than I thought I was.
I whipped down like a cheeseburger. What did he make? Cheeseburger egg roll. So I whipped like 2 of those down like they were hot dogs. And I was like, all right, gotta get on the air. So, all right. Well, Bobby, what do you got coming up besides for?
I don't know. I just got a podcast coming up. I got actually while y'all were talking today, I was uploading a pre-record. Multitask. I got a pre-record tomorrow night. It's a good one though. It's a documentarian, Joe Turry. He wrote he did a documentary about the creature from Big Muddy, a legendary creature in Southern Illinois.
Is he a movie director?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I think I know you're talking about. Okay. I've
been texting him back and forth while we were talking tonight, and because I did a bunch of pre-records. I got to get them offloaded because they're my skill, quote unquote, on doing this is getting better, but my shit's like 3 to 6 months old, and so I'm playing. I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I gotta get them offloaded to get some new stuff.
Yeah, I got one left that I want to put out, and I probably wouldn't put it out if she wasn't a friend of mine because. It was in the wee early when I was still in the dark. So
I'm gonna
good show nonetheless.
I'm gonna offload a good bit and then go back to one a month or one a week, and then start going to other shows. But I had a bunch. I had so many in the hopper, I had to get rid of them. You gotta push them out. I don't have a month in the hopper, but yeah.
Yeah, I was anxious with 2, so. Yeah. So, but we're going to try and do the one that I pushed out today, the Paranormal Attorney. We've got like 3 other shows already pretty much not dates set up, but what we're going to talk about and stuff. So I like that. So that's going to be kind of cool. So we got those coming up. And of course you can find the Paranormal Guyz on WDJY 99.1 on your FM dial in Atlanta. And then there's Radio Fairfax, which is an internet radio station, our cable channel 37, which is Cox, Verizon, Comcast, in the Northern Virginia area. So it's twice I was saying cock on the radio today. So Cock County and Cox Cable. So how about that? So but thank everybody. Appreciate Yerg's Radio for all they do, allowing us to take over their bandwidth. Ross is a great guy. So, and let's see, Saturday Night Misfits. Are you going to be there, Bobby?
I'm touch and go because I'm gonna be out of town for a little bit.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Wish Mrs. Dizzle happy bee.
I'm gonna be on the side of Lookout Mountain having a steak.
Sounds like fun. That's the picture place, right?
It may not be Lookout Mountain, but it's close. It's in southern Tennessee. Could be Mont Eagle.
It's like the place where you have your picture made. But you were showing all the videos or the pictures from on the TV or the steakhouse. It takes your picture.
No.
Okay.
Not the same mountain.
I already know. Good night, everybody. We will see you soon. Thanks for listening and tuning in.